And we're back with beer number 4. You had a chance to, it's been poured, and you had a chance to smell it and taste it. Kieran, why don't you start?
Respect for not cutting the song short there. You let it fade out gracefully. Every beer tastes nice to my bloody Valentine.
Good. So
this one, it's not shouting out loud. It's hard to find a lot to say about it, really. It's very. It's light on the hops. It's got a nice body. I'd say it's like, I'd say it's a golden ale. Golden ale or light pale ale. I really can't find a lot to say about it.
Okay.
I can't find anything bad to say about it. There's no off flavours. There's nothing unpleasant about it. It just doesn't say a lot to me, really.
Okay. Ben?
I think you've switched our beers again. I find the nose is probably the most expressive nose so far. I'm getting a bit of vanilla, kind of hints of coffee, toasted malt. I'd say it's maybe a porter.
Very different opinion. You can see Kieran going for his glass.
I understand where Kieran's coming from. It's not super expressive, especially after what we've had before is hoppy and the little bit of bitterness. This, I'm saying porter as opposed to stout if we're going to get into that argument, just for simply it's quite light. It doesn't really have a big dry kick on the end, but I'm definitely getting the kind of the dark malts, the kind of a little bit of toastiness, a little bit of vanilla that I associate with a porter or a stout as opposed to a golden ale.
Mm-hmm. All right, John.
I'm thinking it's definitely a porter. It's definitely a darker beer. I'm getting kind of malt in the nose. Not getting nothing kind of stand out really on the aroma, and the body. There's a bit of fizz in it, which it seems a bit. It's carbonated, probably a little bit highly for a porter, I would say. So it's like, I don't know, it's like a fizzy porter or something. There's definitely kind of roast malt, that kind of stuff going on in it. I would say it's definitely a darker beer than the stuff we've had so far, so a lot of room for error there. It's pretty light as well. It's not a big beer. If I was in kind of trying to guess the ABV, I'm guessing around 4.5, maybe somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm getting from it.
Okay. Dave, the microphone is in front of you.
Yeah, I got the same glass as John and Ben, as opposed to Kieran's glass, I think. I'm getting a bit of roastiness, a bit of malt. I would say a porter as well. I'm getting that bit of fizz as well. I think not a big beer. I don't get a lot of. It's not really following through. From start to finish. It's not giving me a lot of flavor profile. It's not. There's not a lot coming off it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not an unpleasant beer. It's quite drinkable. I don't know, ABV, I'd be thinking quite light as well, in around the 4.5, 5, nothing too crazy. But no, it's I think in fairness, I think probably coming off the hoppier beers that we were having, I think coming onto this, it's probably influencing our taste buds a small bit. It probably just tastes a bit subdued,
Okay.
As it warms up, as we heat it with our hands, we might pick up more of it,
The beer had been here for about 45 minutes before the show, so the room is quite warm. They had a chance to warm up a little bit in the window fridge before. Kieran, back with you. So
it's like I'm drinking a different beer.
I can guarantee you all have the same beer.
I believe, having listened to the lads now, I could convince myself that it tastes like a dark beer, but to me, when I tasted it first, it just didn't taste like a dark beer. I've no doubt I'm wrong on that.
It's a red.
It's red. It's red. But I just like this beer to just in everything it's doing to just speak a little bit louder, just a little bit subdued for my taste.
Okay, Ben, we're back with you.
Well, I think I'm quite enjoying this. I seem to, just judging by the weight of the glass in my hand, I seem to have drunk quite a lot of it.
There's more left if you want.
Thank you. I think it's a dark beer. I could even say it was maybe even a black lager or something. That's just that toasted malt. I'm getting it on the aftertaste. It's not something you really get off a blonde or even an IPA. I think, if you were doing, if you made this beer, you'd be a bit disappointed maybe that it had been tried. I'd imagine it's lower alcohol, and it's obviously not as hoppy, so it's gonna not stand out compared to what we've just had. So it's probably an unfair test. I quite like the flavour profile. It doesn't have the depth and length that maybe you'd want, but no, it's perfectly drinkable. I'd go with a porter anyway for sure.
Okay, and John, we're back with you.
There's something on the nose. I'm trying to pick it out, and I think Ben suggested lager, so it's possibly something. I don't know, is it something like a Schwarzbier or something? It's possible it is, because it's actually the body wise. It's kind of a light to medium body. It's not anywhere heavy at all. Yeah, there's possibly there's probably lager malt or something used in it. Yeah, but I'm sticking with kind of a dark beer and relatively low ABV. I'm saying kind of 4.5, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
So David?
Yeah, I'm kind of concurring with what's been said, except for what Kieran's saying about it being a pale ale. And it's not a red either, Ben, by the way. I think we're all in agreement it's a dark beer. Yeah, it's initially I was it's definitely a porter, but after listening to the lads going, it could be a dark lager. I'm kind of picking up, maybe that's why we're thinking it hasn't got a lot going on for a porter. Maybe that's why it just doesn't have enough punchiness of a chocolate or a kind of a roastiness or a coffee kind of feel to it, explains the fizz as well. So yeah, and that bit of fizz probably explains as well, John. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, the microphone was in front of you, John. Let me just put it back. Oh, Halper had to step out for a second. Sorry. You were saying, John?
No, I was just saying that probably explains the fizz. I mean, if it was a porter, you wouldn't expect fizz at all. But if it was, something like a black lager or something like that, like you would expect a bit of fizz to kind of add to the body of the beer. But as I say, it's a very light body in that, I think.
Okay.
Galway Hooker dark lager, no?
Well, let's go back to you.
Guess-wise, I'd really struggle. I'm not a fan of light dark beers. I'd go more for a style like, say, maybe the Rasslers. I'm not a big fan of craft stout, craft porter, because I find them quite sweet. This has no sweetness, which is why we've kind of maybe gone it's a light black ale or a black lager. I never really try them, so I wouldn't really be able to pin a name or a company on it. But I think it's perfectly drinkable, and maybe if we tried it first, it might have got a more favourable review.
Okay, we don't have beers from two different beers from the same company on the show ever, so it's not. We already had a porterhouse, and so I just it's not a Whistler, sorry.
Oh, the Rasslers would be totally
Rassler, yes.
Yeah.
Kieran.
I don't know why you're asking me anything about this.
For the comedic value.
I guess if it has to be a dark beer, then I'll go with dark lager as well. Yeah, it's light. It does have an odd kind of fizziness. I don't dislike it. ABV, I'd say 4.8, 5%, that kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it reminds me of a dark lager as well, I think. Now that I've been brought around to that it clearly is dark.
Okay, guys, why don't you take your blindfold off? And the beer is...
That's cheating. That's cheating now. Well, I kind of put you up to that, didn't I? I said you might throw a macro brewery in there at some point or another.
Well, I could only find 5 volunteers to send me some beer.
Maybe we should tell the nice people what it is.
Yes, it is the Guinness Dublin Porter, and the ABV is 3.8.
3.8.
3.8.
Yeah. Very light.
Yeah. Quite fizzy, isn't it?
Black lager.
So were you surprised it's a Guinness?
Honestly, no.
It didn't have enough going on in it, for me to warrant it. More, now that we've drank it, kind of gone,
Well, when I was sort of brought around by my peers to it being a dark beer, I momentarily, it reminded me of pint bottle of Guinness, but it just wasn't enough.
I was thinking the very same. I was like...
It's like a turned down pint bottle of Guinness.
I was thinking the very same. I was drinking, I was like, is this like a pint bottle of Guinness? But then I was like, nah, you wouldn't do that to us.
But if you just turned everything up a bit, you kind of would have a pint bottle of Guinness, I think.
Ben?
I hate to offend the sensibilities of the craft community, but there's a lot more going on in normal Guinness than there is in their bottled porter, which is a lot of people were suggesting it might be, including myself, it might be a black lager. It was very light. Didn't have any kind of dryness on the finish. Didn't have a massive kind of flavour profile, but very drinkable, and for people who are maybe just sort of weaning themselves into the wonderful world of craft. If you're going to get people who just drink mainstream beers, maybe that's the right way to go. It's not too challenging for the taste buds.
A gateway beer.
Yeah,
it's probably a gateway beer for people to get out of regular beer rather than into craft, because it's not really, there's nothing craft about that.
You've got to get people trying something that isn't just one of 4 beers.
Yeah. Well, here's a 5th.
It's an awful lot better than the black lager they actually did make a few years ago. Which was really quite unpleasant.
I didn't get to taste it.
That's quite nice. Yeah. So.
I think it's a decent effort. It's not an outstanding beer.
It's a 3.8 ABV porter, so.
Session, definitely session. Brunch beer, as you were saying last time. And yes, so were you surprised? But if you guys had a chance to taste any of the I'm putting between quote here, craft beer from Guinness. They have another. They have
West
Indian Porter, and then they have hop forward L13.
I can't remember what the names of them are, but even looking at them on supermarket shelves, I know they're macro, I know they're Guinness, and kind of price wise, they're kind of priced up a little bit, I think, towards the craft beer, and there's just not enough there. I don't have enough faith in them to make me actually want to go out and buy it. I've seen it on the shelves and I thought, should I, shouldn't I? And I just go for something. I just go for a real beer.
And after testing it blindly, what do you think? You changing your mind, or you?
No. I've got beer that I've made at home that tastes as good as and better than that. And I actually have a Schwarz beer at home at the moment. It's similar enough to that. It's a black lager. And that's why, when it was said there, black lager, I suppose you're wondering, why is there fizz in this? And that kind of pulled me around to thinking it was maybe not so much a porter, but something that was just a bit too much carbonation for a porter is what I felt. So it doesn't really kind of tick the boxes for me.
Okay, all right. Well, that's it for this one. We're going to go on a quick musical break, and we'll be back shortly with beer number 5.